Hey everyone, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you might be joining us from. And I'll get to more of that here in a little bit. But welcome to our Amazon Fulfillment Center live virtual tour. We're going to wait a few minutes to give everyone a chance to join us. And while we wait, I'm going to give your tour team an opportunity to introduce ourselves. So, hi again. My name is Skip, and today I'm going to be your host. I'm in the scenic city of Chattanooga, Tennessee, and our fulfillment center is called Chaw One. And a fun fact about Chaw One, Amazon's first warehouse was 86,000 square feet. Well, our building is 1.2 million square feet. That means that you could fit 13 of those first buildings inside of here. Okay, now I'm going to send you over to my co host.
Hello, everyone. Welcome, friends. My name is Kate, and I will be your co host today. I am broadcasting from EWR4 in Robbinsville, New Jersey, the beautiful Garden State. My building is an Amazon Robotics sortable building that employs over 4,000 people. And now I'm going to send you over to Colorado.
Thank you so much, Kate. My name is Ryan. I'm located here at Den 3 in Colorado. We're at Thornton, Colorado, so we're about 10 to 15 miles outside of the Denver metro area. And you'll notice that we have some robots hard at work behind me as well here. Now, those robots collectively have driven over the distance from the Earth to the moon since Den 3 was opened back in 2018. So they're definitely putting in a lot of work helping out our employees over here. I'm going to go ahead and pass you on over a couple states to California.
Hello and welcome everybody. My name is Shane. I am operating out of Oak 4, which is in Tracy, California. My site also is an Amazon robotics site. We're very excited to show you how we employ the use of a couple of different types of robotics drives. A little sneak peek for you there. Otherwise, with that said, I'm going to pass you back on over to Skip.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. And it's great to see you today. Well, we're going to say goodbye to them for now, but don't worry, we'll see them again here shortly. Well, now that you know us, let us know about you. So simply use the question mark bubble on your screen and let us know where you're watching from today. All right. So let's see where we've got some people attending today from. We have a fifth grade class from Burleson, Texas. We also have Costa Rica, Seattle, Washington, Nashville, Tennessee. We have Mrs. Smith's third grade class in Tampa, Florida, Manchester, United Kingdom, Kanpur, India, and Indianapolis, Indiana, and many more, but too many for me to read right now. Well, that was amazing, and I love to see all of the areas around the globe joining us today. We'll also be doing a Q&A session at the end of the tour. So just use the same question box there to send us your questions. And we'll do our best to answer as many of those questions as we can during our Q&A session. Amazon's policy on masks recently changed in response to new guidance from the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. So beginning May 24th, fully vaccinated employees are no longer required to wear face coverings at work unless mandated by state or local law. So to work without a mask, you must be 14 or more days past your final dose of vaccine and have a copy of your vaccine card. Now, we understand that masks muffle our sound, but they're here for our safety and well-being of our coworkers. Safety at Amazon is top priority. During the COVID, we've implemented over 150 new safety protocols, such as thermal imaging for employees' temperature and free face mask as they enter the building. Social distancing monitors called Distance Assistant, which is some really cool technology. See those green circles there on the screen? That helps to promote social distancing. And even free on site COVID 19 testing, just to name a few of the changes we've done to keep our employees safe at work. Well, we're going to play a welcome video. And if the video does not start, just try refreshing your browser there. Now, this video is going to show you a little history of where Amazon started and where we are today.
The Amazon you know today does not look like the Amazon we used to be. In 1995, Amazon exclusively sold books online. Every order was carefully packed in a small Seattle, Washington garage, then hand-delivered to the post office for shipment. At the time, Jeff Bezos hoped that one day, Amazon would be big enough to afford a forklift. Over 20,000 forklifts and hundreds of buildings later, it turns out that books were just the beginning. Over the years, Amazon evolved from selling only books to housing Earth's biggest selection. Now we employ over 750,000 people in more than 20 countries all over the world, revolutionizing the way customers shop for everything. Plus, we support millions of small and medium-sized third-party sellers worldwide so that we can offer the products you love. Amazon's fleet of planes, trucks, and local delivery service partners consistently evolve to deliver on convenience. Now, customers can receive Amazon packages on the day of their choosing, with same or one-day shipping. We don't just think about shipping products. Sometimes we create them. In 2007, we launched our first device designed to enhance customers' lives, the Kindle e-reader. Since then, our growing list of products and services include Fire TV, Alexa, Echo, in-store shopping experiences like you'll find in Amazon Books, Amazon Go, and 4-star stores, innovative computing services and features from AWS, award-winning entertainment from Amazon Studios, and even groceries from Amazon Fresh. As we continue innovating, we will never forget our vision and mission, to be the Earth's most customer-centric company. As you'll see on your tour, we've come a long way from the Seattle garage. Today, you'll have a chance to meet some of the people who help make everything we do possible. Welcome to the Amazon Fulfillment Center tour. We hope it makes you smile.
All right. Well, I hope you all enjoyed that video. I know I did. I love to see all of the different areas that we deliver packages to. And another favorite part in that video for me is when the dog receives its new toy. It looks super excited to get outside and play with that new toy. Okay, so let's get started. You might be wondering how we came up with our naming convention. So all of Amazon's fulfillment centers are named after the local airport code. Chattanooga's code being CHA, and this being our first building in the area, we're called CHA 1. Well, today we'll be visiting Den 3 and Oak 4, where Ryan and Shane are excited to show you the magic of what happens after you place your order on Amazon.com. I'm going to show you some slides to give you a quick overview of our processes that we'll be seeing today. So beginning, well, first, our fulfillment centers are divided into two areas, inbound and outbound. So beginning with inbound, where products arrive from manufacturers and sellers to be stored at our fulfillment center. And we support thousands of small businesses that also sell on Amazon.com. The product then enters the building at the inbound dock and goes through a process called receive. Next, the item is stowed. And this is where the products are placed into coded bins and entered into our inventory so they can be located when needed. Now, you'll see our outbound processes after the customer places their order. So starting with pick, where your item is picked out of a bin or a storage location. And once a product is picked for shipment, it's then sent up in a yellow tote to the pack lines where we will pack the customer's order into a box. And then the box will go through our SLAM process and have the shipping label printed and applied. And after that, the box will go to the ship dock and be loaded onto the trailer before heading out to our customers. Well, that was a quick overview, but don't worry, we're going to have an opportunity to show you these in person here in a moment. But before we go live with our tour leaders, Kate is going to virtually show you our inbound dock. All right, Kate, take us out to the inbound dock.
Thank you, Skip. Yes, I am going to be showing you our facility in Rovigo, Italy, called BLQ1. You should be seeing an aerial view of this fulfillment center just to get an idea of the scale of our buildings. BLQ1 is located about an hour southwest of Venice, just for reference. And the reason we're showing you Italy is because when we were looking for footage of our most recent buildings, this was the newest one that was built. So pretty exciting. Now let's start at the beginning of the process at our inbound yard. So here you will see the beginning of where all the magic begins. Products will arrive on trailers at our inbound yard where employees will unload them. About 50 or more % of all products that are sold on Amazon come from a small or medium-sized business. Now, to take you inside and show you how we start the process of receive, I am going to send you on over to California.
Right on. Thank you so much, Kate. We are back in California inside of Oak 4. Now, where I'm standing is the inbound receive dock. This is just the other side of those dock doors that Kate was showing you on the outside of that site. And the reason that I'm showing you this is because when inventory arrives at a fulfillment center, it's going to arrive via scheduled delivery times. This is applicable for both inventory that's sold by Amazon as well as inventory that's being fulfilled by Amazon. It's all going to be unloaded the same way. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a moment to unload these trailers. Sometimes these items are coming in on pallets. Sometimes they're coming in on cases. They could even potentially be coming in on yellow totes. And the reason that we need to unload this is to get it to our receive stations. So the employees that we see here are actually, in fact, doing the role of which we call water spiders. Water spiders is actually the name of that role, and in short, it's a support role. So what they're going to do is they're going to support the receive function by getting that inventory to those receive stations. Well, what's received? What do they need that inventory for? This is because we're going to check every single piece of information pertaining to that inventory to make sure that it's 100% correct prior to making it available for our customers to purchase by putting it into inventory. So, for example, if there's one of the over 50% of inventory that's being sold on Amazon, again, from a small business, and let's say that they're selling shirts, so maybe they're selling solid color tees. When it comes to a receive station, we need to make sure that all the information for those items are correct. So we want to make sure that it's black, not a dark charcoal. We want to make sure that if it's a cotton versus a poly blend, we're getting the correct shirt. Just the same, there is a difference between unisex, women's sizes, and children's sizes, so all information is going to be validated on its way in as it makes its way through that receive process. I will identify that that receive and inspection is going to be a little bit different for a t-shirt versus maybe something like a laptop. However, they are still checking all information pertaining to that item. After that's been accomplished, we're then going to use another water spider to get that inventory to take it over to our robotics station. However, I'm not going to get ahead of myself. Let's jump on over to Denver so that we can see both those Amazon robotics as well as what we're doing with that inventory once it's made its way through receive. Take it away, Ryan.
Thank you so much, Shane, for showing us how those products enter the building. Now, what we're standing at is what's called a universal station. But before we talk about the process that's going on behind me, I want to talk about some of those robotic drives that I'm sure you're very excited to learn about here. Now, those yellow towers that we have on top, those are called pods, and these don't have any technology in them whatsoever. They're merely there as a means of housing the product on some shelves in our AR field behind me. That's our Amazon robotics field that we have behind me there. Now, all of the technology is going to be located in those orange drive units that you can see driving underneath the pods. So those are going to go under one of those pods. It's going to lift it up via a series of hydraulic lifts that it has on top of its head. Now, in addition to that, they also can be pretty heavy. With all that technology, they'll get up to about 320 pounds in weight, but they're also able to lift up to 1,500 pounds of product on one of those pods. So to give you a little bit of perspective as to how strong that is, that's kind of like an offensive lineman for the NFL shoulder pressing a smart car above their heads. So they're very, very strong units, but they're also very smart. Now, you're going to see them moving around back there, and we don't have somebody who's just controlling a joystick behind the camera. We actually have them looking around for these little QR codes called fiducials. And we're going to have those strategically placed around the ground on the field there. They basically are going to act as kind of like a robotic street sign that our robots are going to follow. So they're going to pass over one of those, and with those cameras and sensors that they have all around them, they're going to be constantly looking and scanning for those so they can relay information about where they are in this field, both to other drive units in the area, but also to people like Lisa here, our stower, who's outside of the field. It's all in the name of making sure that we are being as safe as possible when we are utilizing these units and using them as tools in our facility. So that being said, there are sometimes things that can happen. You know, let's say that a product happens to fall out on the floor. We have a team of responders here known as Amnesty that would actually go out and pick up that product off the floor. Now, they're not just going to walk in the middle of the crossfire there. They actually have a special vest that's battery powered that's going to give a little bit of a force field around them. That's going to tell all the robots in that area, hey, don't go into this specific area because there's a person walking in there. They're going to do some maintenance, and we're not able to use it for that specific time. So in that sense, they're able to create a path for themselves, walk out there and pick up that product nice and safely. So that kind of analyzes how those drive units work and what's going on behind me specifically. Now let's talk about the process and how that fits into our first process here, which is called stow. Now, stow is exactly what it sounds like. We're going to be stowing your items or putting them away into our pods of shelving space that we have throughout our facility here. Now, this is just one of our AR fields of 4 different floors with about 2 different fields on each floor. So needless to say, this is just a small fraction of our A to Z inventory that we have here, but we're going to be viewing the stowing process as it's happening all over the facility right now. Now, stowing, essentially, like I said, is putting those products away on the shelves. So as our stower here, Lisa, signs into her station, she's also going to sign in some of these boxes that she has in front of her. That's going to attach those products into this station specifically. So we know that those physical products are virtually in this station. Now, that being said, as she does that as well, she's going to start getting a queue of pods because we know exactly how big those items are. So because we have different size items here, obviously we will have different size pods. You can probably see one back there that has those 6-inch pods or those 6-inch bins. But then we also have the one right in front of her with our 18-inch bins. Because we're a sortable site, we'll store everything up to 18 inches. So everything smaller than that is going to be able to fit onto one of these pods. Now, in addition to that, we do have a few rules when we're stowing products away, but overall, the entire process is done randomly. And yeah, you heard that, randomly. It is done randomly. Now, that's just because we found that it's more efficient. So let's take a little bit of an example here and how random stow can kind of make more sense in this situation. So let's say that Lisa is stowing products away, and she's going to be stowing 2 items. Like Shane was saying, something that's going to be heather gray possibly, and then maybe something that's just solid gray. Now, in a situation like that, we're not going to put those 2 items in the same location, the same bin, because we don't want that messing up somebody later down the line. So once again, it is random. We're not going to put those 2 t-shirts in one specific t-shirt location or one specific clothing section of the field. They're going to be spread all over our facility here. So let's take another thing. Let's take another example here. Let's say that there's a new video game that just came out and it's flying off the shelves. Everybody wants a copy of this. Lisa's not going to have every single copy of that video game here in our facility that she's stowing away onto one shelf. Rather, we're going to spread those all throughout all the universal stations so they can be throughout our facility spread evenly. Now, with that random stow process, there are a few rules that we have to follow here. First and foremost, we want to make sure that there's not too heavy of items that are on the top shelves here. So if we have them on the top shelves, those shelves are going to be top heavy and not have a low center of gravity, and it causes a greater risk for tipping over. So obviously we do not want to do that. Now, another rule is we want to not put those 2 similar items in the same shelf. Like I said before, with the case of that heather gray and gray t-shirt, we don't want to be confusing people later on downstream processes here. Now, the third rule that we want to follow is we want to make sure that products aren't hanging off the side of the shelf. We want to make sure that they're fitting securely and safely inside that bin so that we can avoid any negative interactions that the robots might have on the field. After all, since they are looking for those fiducials, they're going to know their exact position. And oftentimes, you're probably already seen it happen a couple times already, they're going to come at each other and they're going to pass right by each other. You think they're going to crash, but no, they're getting about 3 to 6 inches apart from each other. And then either they're going to slow down, pass by each other, or completely stop to let each other pass by. They're very smart units, so they're going to be a lot more polite than some of the people on the road out in Denver on I-25. Now, as she puts that product away there, that's effectively going to be completing the inbound process. So now we've taken that product into our facility, we put it away on the shelves, and we're ready to transition into outbound. Before we get there, though, I do want to highlight really quickly that we have these corrugate recycling bins at every single location around our site here, every single station. Now, you've seen Lisa probably recycle a couple of the boxes that she's had, but as we mentioned, we do recycle everything that comes into our facility, and we recycle everything that comes out of our facility. So later on, when we're talking about PAC, we will talk about how our material that we use to recycle our boxes is recyclable. So just be sure that you're continuing that circle and putting it in your on-site recycling bin or some recycling centers in your neighborhood. With that, like I said, we're going to conclude the inbound process, but we're going to go ahead and transfer on over to outbound. For that, I'm going to go ahead and send you back on over to Oak 4, where Shane's going to talk about the start of the outbound process. Take it away, Sean.
Right on. Thank you again, Ryan. We are now at another robotic station. However, it is a little bit different than the one we just saw with Ryan. Where Ryan's was a universal, the one I am standing at is an RSAW. RSAW is an acronym, ARSAW, and it stands for Amazon Robotics Semi-Automated Workstation. In short, we're going to call it a pick station because that's what's happening here today. Now, picking, as Brian noted, is the very beginning of the outbound process. When a customer clicks buy on something, we need to pick that item out of our inventory. And to do so, I'm actually going to step out of the way in just a moment here so that we can get a better visual of what it is that Julie's doing. She's an incredible picker, and I'll kind of talk over what she's accomplishing while she's doing this role. So I'm going to step to the side so we can get a better view here. So a couple things we can identify as we're making our way in here. The first of which is that we see a pod. We also see some yellow totes. And we can see a screen in front of her. So this is all working together in tandem to give her the information that she needs to pull out purchases. So what information is being shared on her screen? Well, first, there's no personal information. So if you bought something that maybe you'd rather the world not know you bought, it's not going to say, Shane just bought a fill in the blank. The only information that's going to appear is going to be pertaining to the inventory. So what just happened was someone just purchased what looked like a gray shirt. There was a picture of that item. There was a description of the item. In addition to that, the customer that made that purchase purchased 2 of them, so we identified the quantity. Additionally, from there, if you remember, Ryan said that Lisa was placing those items into inventory randomly. We also didn't see her scanning them. That technology at the station was tracking that, and because of this, now when Julie needs to pick an item out, the system is identifying where she's going to find it. You may actually even be able to see that there's even a light illuminating on the exact cell where she needs to grab the item from. So someone just bought some sort of pose attachment. They purchased 1 of that item, and the location is down to her left, so she's grabbing that item. She'll take it out, she'll scan it, and she'll place it into a tote. From here, let's pause again to talk about 2 things. One, Julie didn't have to ask for these respective pods to come to her station. These are coming, again, automatically, as Ryan noted, due to customer purchases that occurred. So as a customer purchases an item, we're aware of where that inventory is, and wherever it makes the most sense to interact with it is where it's going to assign it to an employee. From there, as Julie's taking that inventory out and placing them into totes, you might wonder if these totes are all assigned to individual customer purchases, or shipments for that matter. And the answer is actually, in fact, no. If there are 2 items inside of a tote or 22 items inside of a tote, they're all more than likely going to different customers. This is because the way that we're picking this inventory out into these totes is based on shipment type and what the downstream interaction is going to be. So at that point, we can see that there's a little light above each individual tote, and as she identifies the item, the system triggers her with a visual with a little light on that panel. She then touches the panel and moves on to the next interaction. From there, why then are we mixing inventory? Well, let's talk about shipment type for a moment. We have both single item shipments and multiple item shipments. Singles are rather easy, so our customer purchases 1 item, it's going to go into 1 package, and it's going to get sent to your house. Well, let's say you buy 1 item, and I buy 1 item, and maybe your neighbor buys 1 item. All 3 of those items could end up going into that same tote, because what's going to happen is the totes are going to be sent out of this station. They're going to ride through our conveyance system over to a pack single department, which is actually the process we're going to follow today. And we're going to see how we handle each individual item to make sure that it's prepped and safe to leave the site to head to you, the customer. So even though you and I don't live next door to each other, we could still grab 1 item, package it, and send it on its way, and then process the next package. It's a very efficient way for us to do this, and because of that, we can actually fill up these totes to nearly 25 pounds being full, or to where they're cubically at about 75% full. From there, then, let's, however, go back and talk about multi-item shipments. This might be what you're more curious about. Let's say you bought items to go camping, and let's say you bought 6 items. Well, based on the fact that we're randomly showing inventory, there's no such thing as a camping or like an outdoors pod. This doesn't exist. Through randomization, they could all be at different locations within the fulfillment center. Here at Oak 4, we have 8 floors of robotics and inventory, and that means that they could be being picked by different employees at different floors and different areas without the fulfillment center. From there, then, how would they then get back together to create that shipment for that customer who bought those items? Well, as far as Julie is concerned, the process is still the same. She will still see an information on her screen. She'll grab out that inventory piece and she'll place it into the assigned tote. However, when those totes leave this station and they leave this space, they're going to start on the same segment of conveyance. However, instead of going to pack singles, they're going to go to a pack multis department. The process is very similar, the main difference being that when a tote arrives in that location, what we're going to do is we're going to take each individual item out and place it into a unique staging area. We're going to do this with thousands of totes throughout the course of the day so that eventually all of those items that a customer has purchased are in one designated location. We'll take all of the items, we'll place them into a package, we'll make sure that they're secure and prepped to leave the site, and we'll send them out the same way. Pretty incredible. From there, then, let's go back real quick to talk about maybe why this randomization makes sense. So Brian talked about t-shirts, right? Kind of going back to that example of maybe if you bought rather regular gray or charcoal gray, then why wouldn't they be in the same location? Well, we've been standing here for a few minutes, and we've seen Julie excel at being able to identify the item that she's looking for. Here in our fulfillment center, we have millions of unique items, and the likelihood that Julie has seen every single one of them is slim to none. What if someone purchased a flutaflagon? I don't know what that item is, but because of the inventory being stored randomly, there could be a book in the pod, there could be a thing of lotion, there could be a cell phone charger, there could be a video game console, all different types of inventory, which then make it that much easier to identify the correct item that we're trying to find. So as she finds the correct item, it's increasing the efficiency of that process. Additionally, because it's not like a department store where you would go to an individual aisle where this is all the outdoors equipment, if someone purchases an item and it's on its way to Julie's pod, what if a customer purchased another item, something completely random and different from that first purchase, and it's in that same pod? Now, instead of having to have a pod go grab a different, or a robotic drive grab a different pod, we can interact with that same pod that's here at Julie's station, and she can interact with different inventory, given that there are different types of inventory. I think it's pretty incredible that that process happens this way. From here, this is essentially the end of that pick interaction. What's going to happen is, again, these totes are going to leave this station through our conveyance system. And on the note of our conveyance system, when we did these tours in person, guests used to comment often that these conveyor lines look like a roller coaster because there's so much of it. We have over 20 miles of conveyance here at Oak 4. However, it obviously is not a roller coaster. It wouldn't be safe for you or I to ride it. However, seeing as we now are offering these tours virtually, I'm going to take the opportunity to shrink you down to the size of a sortable item that we sell here in our building. I'm going to place you into one of our yellow totes, and we're going to send you on that roller toter coaster, and we're going to meet you back with Ryan and Pack Singles to see how we handle those shipments. See you guys there.
Awesome. Thank you for showing us that, Shane. So we're back here in Den 3. We're at what's called a singles pack line. And no, that does not mean that the people who are working here are single. It means that we are using single item orders for multiple different customers here. And that's what we're going to be packing up. So I've got my friend Jasmine behind me here. She's going to be doing her job as we kind of explain what's going on in this singles pack line here. Now you're going to notice that we have 2 conveyors here, that top conveyor and then that lower conveyor. Now, top conveyor has totes that are being sent here from pick. So those have items that have been picked that are real-time customer orders. Now, as she goes through and starts working, she's going to pull one of those down on that little sled there, as you can see she's doing now. And a stationary scanner is going to automatically scan the barcode on that tote. So we know that that tote is once again attached to the station along with all the products in it. After she does that, she's just going to take one product out at a time, and she's going to scan it under another scanner that she's got there. as she does that, the computer's going to return to her the optimal box size for that specific product. So if you remember, we were talking about that Cubiscan process where we're going to be taking in the measurements of those boxes as we take them into our facility for the first time. That's where this is kind of coming into play here. So we're going to be putting that product into the box that is returning. Specifically, this one is a 40 box that we're going to be putting on there. So we're going to make sure that we're not wasting too many materials for a product that's too small. Likewise, we're not going to be packing up a football with a bunch of big items in it that doesn't really necessarily fit. Now, that being said, those are made in buckets, so there is going to be a little bit of extra room in there. And what we'll see Jasmine do here intermediately is she's going to grab a little bit of those plastic air pillows or dunnage that we'd extra put in there as well. Now, you might refer to that as bubble wrap, but there's those big square pillows that we're going to be putting in there. You can see her grabbing some of those right now, and she's going to put those in there to make sure that we're keeping that product safe and secure while it's in transit on our trucks. So then you're also going to notice that she's got that machine next to her that's returning to her the right amount of tape. Now that tape is also really special because it kind of works like an envelope. I've got a piece right here for you. I'm actually going to go ahead and rip it right off the table that I had sticking on because, like I said, it's like an envelope. It's got a little bit of a shiny kind of sheen to it there. Now that piece of tape, I can put it right here and it's going to stick. I can go ahead and take it off. It's going to come back off. It's not going to take off my monitor with me. Now, what it's actually doing is, like I said, working like an envelope. So we've got a little water jet in there that's going to activate that adhesive so we can stick it on and take it off as many times as we need. It's just going to dry later on in the process as it's going on, continuing through the conveyor. So we're going to pack up the bottom. We're going to put that product in. We're going to put the pillows in, pack up the top, and we got one last sticker that we got to put on there. It's called a SPOO label. I'm going to hold one of those up for you close up there. Now that SPOO label is kind of like a driver's license or a license plate for the package. So you're going to notice that there's one thing missing still. It's that shipping label. So who do we know that this is going to? Where do we know this is going to? That's all going to be contained inside our computer system, but the SPOO label is what's going to be bringing that information to light. So as she puts that SPOO label on there, she's just going to go ahead and stick that on, and she's going to scan that SPOO label once again to make sure that we've got that information married with that package. Now, like I said, that's going to come in later down the line, but for that, that's going to conclude the packing process. So as you can see, she's going to be finishing up a box here, going to pack that up, and she already put that SPOO label on there and put it on that bottom conveyor there. Now it's going to be sent over to SLAM. I'm not going to get too far ahead of myself, but Shane is going to run over SLAM and see what it looks like over there at Oak Fort. Go ahead and take it away, Shane.
Right on. Thank you again, Ryan. We are at SLAM. SLAM is the process that all of those packages that are leaving pack singles are going to go through. SLAM is an acronym, and it stands for Scan, Label, Apply, and Manifest. Now, let's walk through what each one of those mean. So every once in a while, let's see, here go 3, 2, 1, we see a red light. What is that red light doing? Well, it's actually a scanner, and it's scanning. But what is it scanning? It's actually scanning almost everything. It is scanning the length, the width, and the height of that package. It's also scanning that SPOO label that Ryan just told you about, so that's connecting the customer's information to the contents of that package. At the same time that it's coming through that segment, it's actually also weighing the shipment, and we're weighing these shipments in grams. So we know how much that inventory is supposed to weigh for when it came through the receipt process. We go through a Cubiscan. We also know how much the Amazon carton is supposed to weigh, and we know approximately how much packaging material is supposed to go into each individual shipment. From there, in a matter of seconds, it's going to send that information to one of these two units right here, where it is going to hold, create, print, and apply a label to each individual shipment as it's coming through. Now, it's important to note that this is not just printing prime labels. USPS, OnTrack, FedEx, you name it, those labels are being created and applied here at the SLAM line. From there, when it's applying that label, you may see a little hand that's coming down to put that label on top. Now, it's not coming down and giving that package a high five. It's actually getting really close because we got the vertical height of what the size of that shipment was, so that hand is just getting really close, and with a little gust of air, it's going to blow that label to apply to the top of that package. Now from here, let's go through this again. Scan, label, apply, manifest. Now if we take just a little quick turn here, we're going to see that these packages are actually getting scanned again. Now, what do we need to scan them again for? What if there's a variable that's occurred within an individual shipment as it's coming through here? Let's just say, for example, that the weight is not what we'd expect that shipment to be. it's no longer going to apply a label saying the customer's information and how it's going to get there. In turn, it's going to apply a kick-out label, where it'll actually come down a little small segment of conveyance right here, where we have a SLAM operator who's going to go through the steps to identify what needs to happen with this specific shipment. So in that case, it might be that the inventory was not what we'd expected it to be. Maybe there was too much or not enough packaging material. Or it might even be that we need to change the box size. Let's also identify, that what if you had made an adjustment to your shipment? Let's go back to that hypothetical camping items you purchased when we were at Pick. Let's say you decided you didn't need one of those items anymore. If you went online and you canceled one of the 6, where now you only need 5, based on all the processes that you've seen thus far, we're really efficient in how we're able to get these items through, and it's possible that when you press cancel, that shipment could be coming through our SLAM line. If that's where the item was within the process, when it's coming through here to create and apply that label, it too is no longer going to get a label applied that's going to say your house and how it's going to get there. It's also going to get that kickout label. It's going to give some different information to our SLAM operator, indicating that a part of that shipment has been canceled. What we would do at this point in time is the SLAM operator would open up that package, identify the item that's been canceled, and at this point we're going to take a pause to say that customer obsession is going in both directions in the process flow of what we see. So both the customer that's purchased the item is the customer, additionally so is the individual who's selling that item through Amazon. So what our SLAM operator would do is we would take that canceled item and we would get it back into availability and inventory. At that point, they would then take the items that have been purchased, they would reprocess them or package them in the correct type package for those items. They would get a label on it to make sure now it's going to the customer, and it would continue on its way through our conveyance system. Really cool process. From here, I'm going to take a quick turn just to kind of show you a little bit more of that conveyance line. You're also going to see my pack single department behind me here as well. 2 different types of conveyance line for where those kickouts come out. However, from here, I'm going to stop talking because we're going to follow this conveyance line upstairs, and we're going to see Ryan, where he's going to tell us what that next process is happening to these shipments that are coming upstairs. Tell them what the ship's order is, Ryan.
Awesome. Thank you again, Shane. Now, this is a ship sorter. Try to say that slowly. That's the ship sorter. Now, the ship sorter is going to be taking all those shipments that we have getting packed and slammed, and we're going to be starting to sort them into smaller geographical areas or locations, such as zip codes, shipping carriers, that kind of stuff. As you can see, all the packages out of our facility are going to be coming through this machine. So we have quite a bit that you can see coming through here. Honestly, this is one of my favorite pieces of technology because it's really fascinating just to watch these packages go over. So let's talk about what's going on as you're watching some of these make their way down to the chutes and down to our outbound dock. Now, as you see back there, we've got that one last scanner that's going to be scanning them again, giving them that nice golden brown tan as they leave our facility. But it's also going to be looking for that shipping label that we were just talking about there. So from that, we're going to be pulling information about where this package is going to, who it's being shipped by, who it's being shipped to, all of that fun stuff. And then that computer right down there is going to make a determination as to which of these 20 or 30 bay doors that package is going to be sent down. Now, you'll also probably notice that we've got a black line of little apparatuses coming down this left side of the conveyor. Those are called shoes or boots, and they're going to kind of kick that package off to the side down one of those corresponding chutes. So at the precise moment that it goes past that chute, usually about 3 to 5 of those shoes are going to come across the conveyor, and it's going to gently push that package down one of those chutes. That's why this is called a sliding shoe conveyor. So like I said, one of these chutes is going to correspond to a few different things. It could be 2-day prime shipping, so you need to get it nice and fast out the door. It could be based on a shipping carrier. So right now, I can see that this one specifically is located going to one of our Amazon sort stations. Now, it also might be a package that's going on an international address. So as I was mentioning earlier, that could be an international address that are printed. So it might have a specific chute that's going directly to the Denver International Airport. Now, like I said, that's all going to be determined by that algorithm. So it's all going to be determined in that point. But let's say that one of these doesn't make it down a chute for whatever reason. That package is actually going to take a couple rounds on this conveyance system to make sure that it's going down that chute. And then on the third time around, we'll actually have it go down to a different area where once again, we'll have a problem solver take a look at that and see what was going on with that package. Basically, just doing a little bit of extra care before we can send it back on out the door. Now, as I mentioned, each one of these chutes is going to correspond to a spiral slide, which is going to take it right back down to the first floor where it's going to be waiting at an outbound dock. That I'm going to pass you back on over so we can see what that outbound dock looks like. Go ahead and take it away.
Right on. I hope you guys enjoyed the ride. We are now downstairs at our ship dock. So a couple things to connect. What you just saw was the palletizing method. So that's where inventory is going to make its way downstairs here. And we're going to get into a specific kind of container so that it can be loaded onto a trailer. This is more often than not being done because those shipments are going to end up on a plane. If something was going from, we'll just say here in Tracy, California to Hawaii, there's not a road that I'm familiar with how to get there. If you know one, let me know. Otherwise, that's one of the reasons we're using palletizing. Otherwise, what we're seeing here is a method we call fluid loading. But before I get to the specifics of what fluid loading is, let's kind of connect some of that information that Ryan was just talking about. So as those shipments are being sorted or diverted to these series of spiral-shaped slides that are behind me here, it's because they've been allocated to that individual lane based on carrier, where it's going, how it's going to get there, and what time it needs to be there. So there's a lot of different slides, a lot of different dock doors that are being utilized. Well, Shane, if there's so many, where are you shipping to? Is it just Tracy or just the Bay Area or maybe even just California? The answer to that is no. We saw that A to Z smile earlier in our tour. This was to indicate a couple of things, both the inventory that we're selling our customers. We're hoping to sell everything from A to Z. Additionally, our shipping is on this as well. We ship all the way to, Anaheim, California, all the way to Zielona, Poland, and many places in between the two. Last year, we shipped to over 175 countries and territories, and we're continuing to expand that to the best of our ability to be able to offer you, the customers, even more. However, to get back to this individual line that we see behind me here, these are all customer shipments that are now prepped, they've been packaged, they've been slammed, so they have a customer's label, and they've been sorted. So now everything that's going into this trailer is going to go to a similar area. Now, part of the reason that I'll identify that fluid loading is not what it's going to maybe be what you thought is that a 53-foot trailer is not going to fit down very many neighborhood streets, or at least not in my neighborhood, for that matter. So what's going to happen is we're going to take a turn here in just a moment, but we're going to look inside these trailers because what we're doing is we're stacking these items from the floor to the wall, and we're building them up kind of like a game of Tetris. So it's a little bit different because they're customer packages and they're different sizes. However, we're doing this very safely, and this is for a couple of reasons. One, someone's going to end up having to unload these trailers to get them broken down into more strategic geographic locations, and we want to make sure it's safe for them to unload those items. Additionally, we want to get as many customer shipments in a trailer as we can. From there, I hope I'm not the only one here who's bought something and maybe got it even sooner than you expected. So maybe you're not a Prime member and you thought you were going to get something in 5 days and you got it in 4. Or maybe you're a Prime member and you thought you were going to get something in 2 days and you got it in 1. This is just another easy example of efficiency. And hopefully you've made those connections that as we made our way through the processes inside of our fulfillment center, there's a lot of efficiency. And the way we're filling these trailers, even though it's the very last step with what we do within fulfillment, is another opportunity for us to be efficient, to make sure we're able to continue to offer more, much like we recently launched one-day shipping to Prime members on select inventory. We're continuing to learn, and we're continuing to try and offer more. From there, as these trailers leave these buildings, as I mentioned again, it's not going to come to your neighborhood. They're going to go to either a delivery station or a sort center, where we're going to break these items down, and they're going to end up making their way onto Prime vans or onto vans for sort companies, or potentially on planes as well. Otherwise, this technically concludes the end of what happens inside of the 4 walls of our fulfillment center. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. I really appreciate it. However, at this point in time, I'm going to pass you back on over to Skip, and I'm excited to do some of that live Q&A with you guys. See you in just a few minutes.
All right. Well, thank you, Ryan and Shane. And you've now seen the life cycle of a package in our fulfillment center. And what you've seen is coordination between our great employees and finely honed computer systems that we've evolved over 25 years. So whether they are a buyer, a programmer, or an employee right here in our fulfillment center, it couldn't be done without all of their hard work and dedication. All right, well, we're going to welcome back your tour team. So let's bring back Ryan, Shane, and Kate back on the screen. What a great tour. So we're now going to have your live Q&A, and I'm going to hand this over to Kate to lead the Q&A.
Great. Thank you so much, Skip. We do have quite a few questions today, so I am going to start right away with Skip. This question's for you. How many items are there in each fulfillment center?
Yeah, great question. So there are millions and millions of items in each fulfillment center, and it can vary, you know, based between fulfillment centers. Something I can share here about CHA 1, at any given moment, there is more than 14 million items, and our capacity here is over 25 million items. Thank you for the question.
That's a lot of stuff. Question for you, Shane. How come I received, ooh, this is a good one. How come I received a really small item in a really big box?
Oh, I like the Inquisition. Okay, so first, when we bring inventory in through the receipt department, we're getting a cube scan of that item. So there are algorithms that are helping us decide the best package size for that item. However, as we continue to learn that occasionally this is happening, we started to take advantage of things like Jiffy mailers for those smaller size items. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Question for you, Ryan. You talked about our robots. How many robots are there in your building?
Oh, wow. So yeah, like the amount of items that we have in our building here, the amount of robots that we have here is very much going to drastically change based on demand and time of year and all that stuff. You know, we are one big network, so we do share those drive units with other robotic sites in the world. I believe we've got over 50 of those now. What I can tell you is across all those 50, over 50 sites that we have using robotics, there's about 200,000 drive units just kind of circulating around everywhere.
Awesome, thank you. Skip, question for you. So it is hot and it is summer. Do your buildings have air conditioning?
Yes, they do. So all of our fulfillment centers are climate controlled. Actually, in 2012, Amazon invested $52 million to retrofit the older sites as well. So yes, all of our sites are climate controlled. Thank you for the question.
Awesome. At least we know we're all keeping cool, right? Question for you, Shane, you're up next. How long does it take for an order to leave the building?
Oh man, I love this question. Okay, so how long does it take? You saw all of the processes that happen inside of our fulfillment center. So the short answer is it's very fast. We're able to continue to process those items. It's going to vary by item and site as well. However, we have been known to ship items as fast as in 13 minutes. So we're very efficient at getting those items out to you.
Awesome. Ryan, back to you. If I return an item, where does it go?
Oh, that's a great question. So it depends on what kind of return you're talking about here. If we're talking about customer returns, those are handled by a different center called a return center. So I don't have much visibility on that. Now, let's say that you're a vendor or a seller in our FBA network, and you have an item that, you know, is going to be expired in a couple of months. We do have some, you know, things like mac and cheese, soup, that kind of stuff here. That could expire. So in that case, we'd end up contacting the vendor and seeing what they want to do with the extra product. And then they ultimately have the option, the decision to make themselves.
Great. Skip, I'm going to send this one to you. This is from one of our students. Jackson wants to know, how much do the employees get paid?
Yeah, hey, Jackson, thank you for the question. That's a great question. So I can't answer for all of the employees on what they make, but what I can share with you, we were really excited in November of 2018 to announce that we were increasing our minimum wage to $15 an hour for all employees. So employees here at Chaw One, they now start anywhere from 15 to 15.90 an hour. And if you're interested in a career with Amazon, just check us out at amazondelivers.jobs. Thank you for the question.
Awesome. I think Jackson's got a few years before he can work with us, but maybe we'll keep him in mind when he gets a little bit older. Question for you, Shane. How many packages do you ship out of your building every day?
Wow, okay, a lot of items are shipped out. You saw the trailers and how fast we're loading those items up. So that's most certainly going to vary from time of year to day to the individual site. However, in busy times such as we are nearly in prime at this point in time, we've actually been known to ship over 1 million packages in a 24-hour period. So pretty incredible there.
Awesome. Ryan, we have another student question for you. Melanie is asking, how long is a shift for an employee? How long do they work in one day?
Yeah, that's a great question. So here at Amazon, we don't run on a typical 5-day work week. We do 4 days on and then 3 days off. So all of our employees get a 3-day weekend. Now we still make that work with the 40 hours a week. So each shift is about 10 hours. Now they're going to go in and they're going to work about 2.5 hours before getting a morning 15-minute break, and work another 2.5 hours before getting a 30-minute lunch break. Then they're going to work another 2.5 hours for getting a 15-minute afternoon break. And then they're finally going to work their last quarter of the day before going home for the day. Like I said, that's going to be 4 shifts a week. So then they get a nice 3-day weekend, either on the front half of the week or the back half of the week, depending on what they prefer. And that's kind of how that work-life balance has really worked out for Amazon versus a 5-day schedule, as other places typically might do.
Great. Thanks, Ryan. Looks like we have time for one more question. This one's going to go to all of us, so I'll start. But what is your favorite thing about working for Amazon? So I have been here for almost 6 years, and my favorite thing is all of the different people that I've gotten to meet over the years. My building here in Robbinsville has employees that come from over 50 different countries. So I have learned so much about different people's backgrounds and eaten so many different foods at lunch, and just learned about so many people's different cultures. And it's been really eye-opening and exciting for me. So I think my favorite part is definitely all the people. How about you, Shane?
Yeah, I too am a fairly tenured Amazonian. I am 7 years myself. People are incredible. I'm going to add on to that with the leadership specifically. I've worked at other companies where managers do what managers do, and here I feel like everyone that I've met has gone above and beyond. I started on the floor on the ship dock, oddly enough, and through incredible leadership and friends and relationship building, I was able to make my way through the fulfillment center and get to be able to be here to give you guys tours. So I'm very ecstatic about Amazon. What about you, Ryan?
Yeah, to avoid being repetitive on the answer here, I think one of my favorite things, besides what has already been mentioned, is the beautiful marriage of people and technology together, working simultaneously. It's like a symphony that all this kind of works. I mean, people call it a well-oiled machine. It's quite literally a well-oiled machine. So that's one of my favorite things. You get these people who are just amazing, wonderful people, working alongside this incredible technology every single day. That's what I love about Amazon. What about you, Skip?
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. So, I'm going to continue the common theme here, and that is people. I really enjoy, all of the people I work with, meeting new people, learning of new people, including leadership there. And also, I am a little bit tenured, such as Shane and Kate there. Next week, I'll be with Amazon 8 years. And I love to see all of the opportunities. Thank you. I love to see all of the opportunities that are available to our employees. So I've seen employees come in at a tier 1 level, and they have moved up in through the company to here in operations to be a senior operations manager. Some of them have even gone to other businesses within Amazon, working at our headquarters in Seattle, or maybe working at a delivery station. So it's really awesome to see all of those opportunities that Amazon provides.
Great. Yeah, so I think we all agree that people are what makes Amazon go round. So with that, we are at time. If we didn't get to your question, we tried to answer as many as possible, but feel free to visit aboutamazon.com. You can learn so much about our company there, maybe even more than additional information that you would have seen on the tour today. Thank you for sticking with us. We hope you had as much fun on the tour today as we had giving it to you. We hope that you'll come back again. But we do have a small favor to ask of you. At the end of this, when the webinar closes, you will receive a link to a survey. It just takes 2 minutes to fill out. We ask that you fill out that survey, give us your feedback. We read all of the feedback, every single piece. So let us know what you loved, what you would have liked to see, and we can continuously improve our program. Amazon is very data-driven, and we'll take this very seriously. So thank you again. I want to thank our camera people today on the floor, and from all of us here in New Jersey and Tennessee and Colorado and California, we hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Yes.
Thank you.